Hey, this is Sam. Welcome to BNS About Movies. This week we're going to talk about one of my obsessions, 21st Century Film Corporation. Now, 21st Century was originally formed in 1976, some even say 71. It's a film production company and distributor by Tom Ward and Art Schweitzer. Their company also owned most of the catalog of Dimension Pictures after the company went bankrupt in 81. They also released many films on home video through a short-lived label, Planet Video, and then they set up a deal with Continental Video starting in 85. But by the late 80s, they were filing for bankruptcy and they were purchased by Giancarlo Peretti. Peretti had also just recently bought the Canon Group and renamed it Path Communications, and he eventually handed the newly rebranded 21st Century Film Corporation, along with Spider-Man and Captain America film rights that Canon owned, to the former owner of Canon, Menahem Golan. Now that Menahem had a new company, he did exactly what you would expect. He started making 20 movies in a row. His goal was to create, as he said, high-quality motion pictures for American and worldwide film audiences, but most of those movies were like Bullseye, the Night of the Living Dead remake, about which John Russo has said he had an incredibly horrible time working with 21st Century, and Phantom the Opera. The other thing, in 89, 21st Century and Path Communications ended their production contract. As part of the deal, 21st Century got rights to two movies, the aforementioned Phantom the Opera and Mac the Knife, which is a musical. Path would no longer owe anything to 21st Century. Captain America was filmed, and yet only got a limited theatrical release. It did come out on home video. 21st Century then signed an agreement with the Hoyts Corporation to serve a 20-film deal. Funding for Spider-Man was difficult, if you can believe that. Today we know that comic book movies are super easy to sell. Well, they were. They still will be. But the difference is back then, no one thought there was any need for a Spider-Man movie. 21st Century sold the film's TV rights already to Viacom, home video to Columbia, and theatrical to Carolco. He thought, Menahem thought he was being pushed out. He started a whole bunch of lawsuits. The company went bankrupt, and in 1995, the Spider-Man rights expired and went back to Marvel, and Carolco lost the rights as well. After all that, Credit Lyonnaise, who owned the Epic Film Library, also got all of 21st Century's. Polygram Film Entertainment acquired the Epic Library after that. This is how film libraries go. It's so hard to keep up with who owns what. In 98, MGM acquired the pre-96 Polygram Library, and that was all incorporated and made Orion Pictures. MGM had merged with Path Canon earlier and was also a theatrical distributor of Carolco. But the 80s and 90s had a lot of cocaine and a lot of mergers. The last few movies that were distributed by the Golan version was Deadly Heroes and Death Wish 5, The Face of Death, which is Charles Bronson's last theatrical starring film. He would make the Family of Cops TV series after this, which were a series of TV movies. As for the films that 21st Century put out, 21st Century, when they start back in the days as 21st Century Distribution Corporation, put out some wild stuff. They put out the Three Fantastic Supermen, the Italian movie. The Tormented, which was re-released in 1980 as the Eerie Midnight Horror Show. We've already done that on this. It also came out on Planet Video and Continental Video. The Image of Bruce Lee, Fist of Fury Part 2, Return of the Tiger, Snake Fist versus the Dragon. Another movie we did on the show, Suicide Cult, a.k.a. The Astrologer, the other astrologer, Kathy's Curse, I Go Pogo. These are all movies I'm obsessed by. Lunatic, which was a re-release of The Night Visitor. Deliver Us from Evil, which was re-released as Joey in 1977. Terminal Island, Snake Fist Fighter, The Mothers, The Iron Dragon Strikes Back, Group Marriage, Dr. Minx, To the Devil a Daughter, which came out in 76. Some of these started to get into the Planet Video re-releases. Revenge of the Shogun Woman, a.k.a. 13 Golden Nuns. Return of Bruce, The Phantom of Terror, which was their re-release of The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Blood Tide, The Slayer, it was a Planet Video release. They also licensed it to Continental as a double feature with Scalps. The Deadly Spawn, released as Return of the Aliens, The Deadly Spawn. City of the Walking Dead, which was an English dub release of Nightmare City. Oh man, Scalps, which we already talked about, that was on with The Slayer. Vampire Hookers, which came out in 78. '84 they were just releasing a ton of stuff just to get out there, like Eye of the Evil Dead, an English dub release of Manhattan Baby. They also had releases of New York Ripper, Don't Open Till Christmas. They had produced New York Ninja. It was finished in 2021 by, obviously, Vinegar Syndrome. Emmanuel in Egypt, which was originally released as Smooth Velvet Raw Silk and Naked Paradise. They're into making money. Class Reunion Massacre, which we know is The Redeemer, Son of Satan. Prison Ship 2005. 21st Century put out a lot of stuff. Finally, when they were acquired in '89 and given to Menahem Golan, they had Cage Fury. Edgar Allan posted The Black Cat, El Gato Nero, another movie I need to get to, the Luigi Cozy movie. Getting Even, Mac the Knife, Phantom of the Opera, Warriors from Hell, Pray for the Hunter, The Forbidden Dance, which I think we've gotten into, Bad Jim, Deceit, The Appointed, The Fifth Monkey, Night of the Living Dead, which we talked about, Bullseye, Street Hunter, Captain America, Virgin High, Killing Streets, Blood Match, Prison Planet, The Finest Hour, Invader, Killer Instinct, Danse Macabre, not the Stephen King book, Hit the Dutchman, Hot Under the Collar, Desert Kickboxer, 3 Days to a Kill, Midnight Witness, Rage, Silent Victim, Ninja Vengeance, Deadly Hero, Dead Center, Teenage Bonnie, and Klepto Clyde, another movie I'm obsessed with, and finally Death Wish 5, The Face of Death, which, God, we got to get to that too. But let's start with the first of the movies I want to talk about this week, Edgar Allan Poe's The House of Usher.
A young couple is invited to England by Uncle Roderick Usher. It seems like the vacation of a lifetime.
Ryan, watch out!
But it's really the beginning of a nightmare.
You gotta help me.
Uncle Roderick is a mad aristocrat who must produce an heir.
Shut it!
Molly is the chosen one.
Shut up! Shut up!
The house is full of twisted servants, a perverted doctor,
Take off everything.
and a deranged brother.
Let me see you smile.
A tale of modern passion and ancient terror.
You are part of my family now.
Where fresh bloodlines are joined with hereditary madness. Based on Edgar Allan Poe's classic thriller, The House of Usher.
So the reason I'm doing this episode is I'm in love with what 21st Century did with their Poe movies, which was to barely skim the originals and really just do anything. As long as they had some of the names and events inside, just hire the right actors, for example, Oliver Reed and Donald Pleasance, and have fun. Anyway, this is about Molly McNulty, who's Remy Waldhall from The Howling Four, and her fiance Ryan Usher, Rufus Swart from Space Mutiny, are on their way to London to visit his uncle Roderick, who's played by Oliver Reed, when he swerves to miss two ghost-like children standing in the road. And I really need to start to do a letterbox list of movies in which ghost children cause car crashes. Barely surviving, Molly makes it to the mansion. When she awakens the next day, she's told that he's receiving care, but the truth is the old man wants her for himself, and it's the only way that she can help him escape the cursed, incestual Usher bloodline all for himself. Also, he's imprisoned his brother Walter, Donald Pleasance, in the upstairs of the house. P.S. Those two ghost kids never come back for the rest of the movie. Shot in the same South African house that director Alan Berkshaw and writer Michael J. Murray made The Masque of the Red Death in for the same company. We'll get to it. Are they starting to feel like a little Empire or maybe even Full Moon with all these cast Olympics? This movie goes off the rails in the best of ways, featuring a scene where Roderick drugs McNulty and marries her himself, shoving a piece of cake in her mouth and eating it while still in her open mouth, topped by a later scene where she imagines that she's making love to her fiancé in the shower, she thinks he's dead, and wakes up to a nude Oliver Reed. Also, for some reason, Donald Pleasance has a drill mounted on his hand, and before I forget how could I, Roderick deals with a doctor who wants to have sex with his new bride by feeding the man's genitals to a rat that he has starved for this exact purpose, and that is planning. There's also an outright ripoff coming out of hands coming out of the wall straight from Day of the Dead, which is maybe even more upsetting to Romero and crew for all the problems they had with 21st Century. There's also a butler named Clyde, played by Norman Coombs, his maid wife Anne Strandy plays her, and their daughter Gwen, Carolyn Focar, all living in the house where they were before Walter escapes and kills them all before dancing. Then Roderick heaves his brother down the stairs, the house catches on fire, and Molly opens a sarcophagus finding her drunk fiance, although I have no idea how they plan on getting married after all this, because it's all a dream. And then we go back to the beginning. This movie looks way more lavish than it sounds from my description. The interiors were shot in South Africa, while outside the Usher house is actually Blind Night Palace, which you may recognize from The Legend of Hell House, Barry Lyndon, or King Ralph. I adored this film as once gothic romantic horror and a direct-to-video mind warp. Of course, it was produced by Allan Towers. I mean, who else? This is literally everything I want in movies. The kind of junk that most people just laugh off, and yet I find so much room to gush over. Oh, and one last thing, it totally recycles Gary Chang's score for 52 Pickup, and some of the music from 10 Little Indians, both canon movies. I have no idea how Menahem Golan got those, seeing as he was no longer part of canon. The next one on the list is Edgar Allan Poe's Masque of the Red Death. There were two Masque of the Red Deaths in 1989. The other one is produced by Roger Corman and directed by Larry Brand. Much like Corman, Menahem figured, hey, this is in public domain. And Corman had already done it twice now. He did 64's Masque of the Red Death, produced by Abbey Lerner and Allan Towers for Golan's 21st Century. It's also directed by Alan Bergshaw, who made 10 Little Indians and Ordeal by Innocence for canon, as well as Don't Open Till Christmas. And as we just mentioned, Fall of the House of Usher. The script came from Michael J. Murray, whose career went from making these two Poe movies that Bergshaw directed on the same sets in South Africa to TV movies about Madonna and Michael Jordan to, as always with genre filmmakers, holiday films. Rebecca, played by Michelle McBride from Subspecies, has snuck into a very exclusive costume party dressed in a Cupid costume that sadly does her no flavors, nor does it make her look like Cupid, being put on by Ludwig, who is Herbert Lom, in a role originally written for Jack Palance.
This evening we dedicate our night to love. Love and deception. Of course, to some of you, they may be one and the same thing. Then your pleasure will be doubled. Ladies and gentlemen, who of us here does not have a secret? Well, tonight we shall exchange some, betray some, invent some more perhaps. Who knows? We shall see. Join me now in the dance of love and deception.
They'll celebrate Poe's Masque of their death with one goal. They get an interview with soap opera star Elena Hart, who amazingly is played by Brenda Vaccaro.
I'll never do it again. It's like, Duke.
Yes?
What do you say?
Oh, it's like being served caviar and finding out it's lumpfish.
Isn't that brilliant?
Meanwhile, as everyone engages in an Easter egg hunt, you know how much Poe's horrific gothic fiction was based on Easter eggs, right? A red-cloaked and masked figure starts slashing everyone into oblivion. About 15 minutes into this movie, my wife asked me, how was it? And I was just about to say something horrible about it, but then you guessed it. Frank Stallone shows up.
You guessed it. Frank Stallone.
There's a Duke named Duke in a keyboard-driven rock band with a lead singer with star glasses takes the stage to play the schmaltziest of music, and I said, how has Vinegar Syndrome not released this? No one has. This has not even come out on DVD yet. Ludwig's girlfriend Colette is played by Christina Lund, who is the girl in Heaven 17's Video for Trouble. She's also in Man Killers, Patty Hearst, and Young Rebels. Her accent is at best impenetrable, and I love every line she says in this, a mixture of baby girl cooing and an approximate bit English that has short-circuited YouTube's predictive closed captioning.
The sun gave me a fever. My soul burned.
The movie is bafflingly wonderful as it can be both good and bad at the same time. Sure, almost everybody else would hate it. But someone said to me the other night that they're very impressed by the defensive movies that others look down on. This has a game of human chess, slashings inspired by Poe stories, Herbert Lom being Herbert Lom, the worst French accents ever, neopunk dancers, choreographer Neil McKay and the Razzle Dazzle Dance Company, who also show up in Brutal Glory and Outlaw of Gore, Ludwig turning to a secret female doctor who injects him with age-defying medicine in a subplot that is quickly forgotten. The songs Twilight Zone, I Can Rely on You, Magical Mystery, and Where Do We Go From Here? Black cat that just drops in out of nowhere just to give us a jump scare, a concluding cat fight, and a murder by a loom. So much misery, so much madness, says Ludwig at one point, but not for me. This is the kind of movie that I'd rent in the early 90s or have it upon in cable in the middle of the night and then keep thinking about it for years. my devotion to movies like this is why I will never be an approved Rotten Tomatoes reviewer, but come on, we all know those guys ruin all of your DVD cover art.
Well, today we're going to learn about ants.
Welcome to Ravenscroft, Miss Pendleton.
Ants can carry over 100 times their own body weight.
Ravenscroft has a remarkable success record.
Well, we've still got a long way to go.
Now that means that if you weigh 100 pounds, then you'd be able to carry 10,000 pounds.
I'm frightened.
What?
You know, ghosts. Like dead people.
Hey, what have we got here? Special delivery?
There's something hidden in the basement, and you have to find it.
Do you need something, my dear?
There's something behind the wall.
Hello, baby!
Sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to scare you.
Janet had an interesting first day.
Oh, I'm sure they were just testing you.
We're gonna boycott the bitch.
By the way, you didn't see anyone last night or pick anyone up. Young girl, 17?
Remember, Janet, this place is off limits. There is something going on here, and I want to know what it is.
God, Jen, these are tough girls. Confrontation is second nature to them.
This asshole's got a stick in your brains, and you don't even know it.
My methods were working. They wouldn't be running.
Maybe they're running away from something else.
Here's my hand.
Every little ant runs with such speed that if we were to run as fast as an ant runs, we'd be going as fast as a Porsche would at full speed on the freeway.
Imagination is a gift, Janet. Don't be afraid of it. It can make you strong.
Well, that brings us to the last movie, which is Buried Alive. And this is yet another Menahem Golan and Harry Allen Towers production. New teacher Janet Pendleton, who's Karen Witter, who was Playboy's March 1982 Playboy of the Month, has come to Ravenscroft Reform School, which also has head doctor Gary Julian, Robert Vaughn, and Dr. Schaefer, Donald Pleasance, in a bad wig and worse accent.
We don't want any unpleasantness.
So nothing bad can happen, right? Like a Ronald Reagan mass killer walling young women into the basement. You don't remember about that time Edgar Allan Poe wrote about guys wearing Ronald Reagan masks? How about the time he had a girl using a mixer to curl her hair and then scalps herself? Arnold Vosloo from The Mummy plays a cop. Ginger Lynn Allen plays the worst of the bad girls. Neil Long plays Fingers, who gives her friend switchblades.
Hey, Fingers! Honey. You should become a member of the Icicle Club. What's that? Oh, just a group of us so special and cool we're freezing.
Gary's father is John Carradine in his last role, and guys from an all-boys school head down to the dungeon to party with the girls, and that's when and where murder happens. Director Gerard Kukokine, also made Edge of Sandy and Master of Dragonheart Hill for Cannon, as well as plenty of adult films. He also edited Jess Franco's Countess Reverse and Lorna the Exorcist. Where writers Jake Chessie and Stuart Lee only have this movie to their credit. Most of the movie's music is also taken from Edge of Sanity, except for the song Love Bites, which we all know is from Ninja 3 The Domination, which makes me wonder if Menahem also got the rights to all that music when he left Cannon, or if 21st Century was just giving it away. This is the kind of movie that when it was over, I thought to myself, how has Vinegar Syndrome not released this one too? Within an hour, I looked at their new releases. There it was. I bought it immediately. Anyways, that's a whole bunch of 21st Century films, which is rich with movies probably only I like. We'll get to Dance Macabre, I'm sure, soon enough. And, of course, Luigi Cozzi's The Black Cat. You can visit the website, bnsaboutmovies.com. You can reach out to me at bnsaboutmovies@gmail.com. You can go to our Ko-fi, coffee, however you want to say it, and donate to the site. Please rank the show, rate the show, whatever you got to do, subscribe. You know all the stuff people ask you to do on podcasts, and come back next week for another episode. Thank you.